All right, so I wanted to talk about this Dave Grohl interview that I was watching here on BBC. Dave Grohl on Nirvana's success, his musical awakening, and stories from the road. There's a lot of things he talks about in here, but in particular, one of the things that he talks about is all the unhealthy, negative ways that his past in the punk and hardcore scene sort of conditioned him against being successful and almost like made him feel guilty for being successful, because this is something, you know, I grew up in the punk scene as well, which I'll talk about, different era, but a few years after him, but I experienced the same thing. And I thought the way that he articulated it was really good. So I kind of wanted to touch on this because this is something I feel super passionate about, this whole idea that basically the entire alternative music scene, especially the punk and hardcore scene, but really like the entire music scene pretty much hates success and believes that money is inherently evil. And I feel like there's just like an incredibly toxic kind of narrative in the scene that really grinds my gears, damn it. So let's see what Dave Grohl has to say about it, and then I will give you my thoughts.
But first, I want to thank Roman for sponsoring this video. We like to have fun on this channel, but you know what is not fun? Dealing with doctors, sitting in waiting rooms, the insurance paperwork and co-pays and blah, 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 blah. It is the absolute worst, right? So for all my guys out there dealing with hair loss, just like me, let me tell you about Roman and their solutions for hair loss. And don't get me wrong, the world is full of handsome bald heads, but that doesn't have to be you if it's not your style. Roman offers prescription and over-the-counter treatments delivered right to your door with fast, free shipping, so you don't have to wait to start fighting hair loss. Because the sooner you start treatment for hair loss, the easier it is to keep the hair you have. Sometimes guys are even able to regrow the hair that they've lost. For a lot of men, losing their hair can even mean losing some of their confidence. If I'm being honest, that was kind of true for me. So whether you are rocking a buzz cut, the gent man bun, or the butt rock faux hawk, you can find hair loss treatment to keep the style that you want. So if you want to check it out, go to ro.co/Finn. If approved, you will get your first month of treatment for free, plus free 2-day shipping. That's ro.co/Finn. One last time for anybody who missed it, ro.co/Finn, or hit the link in the description of this video.
But if you started out as a weirdo who was pure about the music and didn't want to sell out, you write really cleverly about the moment you hit the big time, really, watching Smells Like Teen Spirit on MTV.
It's funny, I do talk about it in the book. So when you're young and you start playing music, you're just in love with the sound, and you're in love with the puzzle and the mystery and how to do it and learning to do it yourself, right? You're listening to top 40 radio. You're listening to these huge bands that have sold millions of records. And as I became like a punk rock kid, you know, the punk rock underground was kind of like ethically suffocating. You know, you were conditioned to reject any sort of commerciality or conformity, any sort of like top 40 radio, things like that. So then when your band becomes popular, like, what do you do? Like, how do you...
Right, what do you do?
Reconcile those two things, or how do you justify that, you know? Because
first of all, just the idea that you would have to justify being successful is insane. Like the idea that instead of your friends being happy for you and be like, holy shit, Dave Grohl from Scream and that little band called Nirvana that was on Sub Pop playing to 75 people at the off-ramp last year, they're on fucking MTV. That band is huge. Holy shit, this is amazing. Our friend Dave made it. Instead of that, the first thing you're thinking is like, oh my God, you're like looking over your shoulder. You're like, oh my God, how am I going to explain to my friends that my band is popular now? Like, what a sick kind of perverse kind of culture that we have created, that your first impulse as someone who has any kind of success is like, how am I going to justify this? Like, you have to justify being successful to your friends. It's sick.
most musicians feel some sort of guilt. Like you said,
You feel guilty.
Sellout. Like, what happens when the songs that you've written are loved by everyone? Do you run away from it because everyone loves it? Now you're a top 40 band and you've sold millions of records. How do you deal with that? A lot of people feel this sense of guilt or shame. Like, oh no, I'm too popular.
Like he said, they feel this sense of guilt or shame. So this is kind of what I wanted to talk about. There's a lot of things that he touched on here that I think are really reflective of this exact narrative, the basically anti-success, anti-money kind of thing that is such a huge part of the scene. And there's a few things, a few like kind of unstated assumptions here that I think are worth pointing out. Number one, nobody is going to actually say this, but again, this is an unstated assumption that if you have made money or achieved some sort of success, that means you've done something unethical. So if someone has whatever, if they've sold millions of albums, or if they've got a little bit of money in the bank, whether they're a musician or not, there's this idea that if you've got a little bit of money in the bank, that must mean you did something bad. Therefore, the base assumption is rich guy bad. You know, someone might have worked their ass off for 20 years starting a chain of car washes. And yet somehow, if this person has any money, they've done something bad. And God forbid that a musician actually becomes successful, then clearly they must have done something wrong. Yes, and that your intentions weren't artistically authentic. Exactly. Like he said, how do I explain to my friends that our songs are really popular and loved by millions of people? Like, I don't think anybody could say that, you know, someone like Kurt Cobain was desperate for fame. Like, I think he became successful kind of by accident. Not that there's anything wrong with wanting to be successful, but that's exactly right. There's an unstated assumption that if you become successful and make any money, that your artistic intentions are not authentic and that your music can't be authentic. And if your music isn't authentic, then it's bad and you are a bad person. This is the sort of chain of logic here. And none of these things are true. And I want to really, there's this idea of, there's a guy named Ramit Sethi, who's like a personal finance writer. He has a term that I really like called invisible scripts. This is one of those invisible scripts that's in a lot of our collective heads that I just absolutely hate, that I want to knock down. I want to just tear up this invisible script because I think it holds a lot of people back. It certainly held me back a lot in a lot of different ways. Like for me, I felt like because I was told so many times in so many songs that the system was rigged against me and everyone's out to get you and it's hopeless. You'll never be happy or successful or never have any money. For me, I just sort of assumed like, oh, well, I guess that's just how it's going to be. I'm never going to have any money. I'm never going to be happy. I'm doomed to just be this like miserable victim of the system because that's just how it is. You know, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So many of the things that we tell ourselves end up becoming true because the story that you tell yourself in your head affects the way that you act. And the way that you act obviously dictates the course that your life takes. So if you have listened to all these bands tell you that you're a victim and tell you that success is bad and tell you that having any money is bad, well, do you think you're going to act in such a way that you're likely to be successful or make any money? Of course not. Of course not. These things become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Imagine changing the course of music history and creating your own genre and feeling guilty about it. Exactly. And how many people hold themselves back specifically because they're afraid of judgment from their supposed friends? That's my question. Are these people really your friends if they're rooting against you? Because that's what they're doing. If you are asking yourself, man, should I hide the fact that I was able to like buy a new car because I'm afraid that my supposed friends are going to judge me for it and think that I'm a piece of shit sellout, then they're not your fucking friends. As the saying goes, with friends like that, who needs enemies? It's sad. It's sad. Exactly. It contradicts the whole term friend. Like your friends should be lifting up and helping you and hoping for you to achieve your goals, whatever they are. Now, I want to be very clear that I don't think money is everything by any means. I mean, there's a lot of people on YouTube that in my comments that seem to think I'm some sort of like raging materialist or capitalist. I'm not at all. I know for sure money doesn't buy you happiness. I certainly don't think money is the most important thing in the world by any means. But as anybody who has ever been poor knows, money doesn't buy you happiness, but being poor fucking sucks. So I want everybody to be happy is ultimately what I want. It's possible to be poor and happy, but I think probably most people watching this have like felt a lot of fucking stress because they didn't have any money, right? What I wonder is how many people have followed this invisible script in their head of being afraid of success or believing that success was impossible because this was drilled into their head by some band that they listen to. And are these bands really your friends? Like, every band would have you believe that they're in your corner, like fighting the good fight against the bad guys that want to oppress you and keep you down. But are they really? Are they really doing that if all along they're just telling you, oh, you'll never be successful, it's impossible, the system is rigged against you, and by the way, if you ever do make any money, that means you're a piece of shit and a horrible person? That doesn't sound to me like something that a friend would say, right? Money can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you a jet ski, and you can't be sad on a jet ski. Well, I actually don't agree with that. I think there's a lot of people who are very miserable despite the fact that they have a lot of material possessions. I mean, think about how many people may be very successful in their professional career, which, by the way, that might include musicians or entertainers or whatever. How many people have, I mean, think about this way. Would you say that musicians are happy people? Would you say the people in Hollywood are happy people? You know, they've got all the fame in the world, they've got all the money in the world, but would you say they're happy people? I mean, look at their lives, look at their track record. Not great, right? That's sort of, to me, empirical proof that money and fame and, you know, having millions of fans that think you're, you know, God's gift to the world doesn't actually make you happy. So by all means, by all means, I'm not suggesting that you should, like, you know, chase money or anything like that. The opposite. I think actually, like, pursuit of material possessions is incredibly destructive, and probably makes people unhappy far more than it makes them happy. But my point is that, you know, there's a balance here. And I feel like, kind of like Dave Grohl was saying, I feel like in the alternative music world, the pendulum has swung so far in favor of basically just this sort of very dogmatic, irrational hate of material success that I think it's, like, legitimately holding back millions of people. It's not the money. Money is just means to an end. That end is Funko Pops. Exactly. Money buys freedom is what it does. That way of thinking is as old as humanity itself, and is the foundation of, for example, communism or most religions. Yes. It's the idea that if you have something that not everyone can have, it's a sin, it's unfair, and you should be ashamed because you have it. That's exactly right. That is 100% exactly right. It's a belief that if you have something that someone else doesn't have, that means you're a piece of shit. That's the fundamental kind of belief here. And this is one of the reasons why, like, to be honest, I talked about this on a podcast the other day. The guy asked me, like, well, you know, when you started going to hardcore shows, did you feel like you finally fit in? And the answer was no. I said, no, I didn't feel like I fit in, because even when I was 14, 15 years old, like, I never had this sort of, like, negative view of the world where someone else had something that I didn't have, that I was angry about that. And, like, I didn't feel like the world owed me anything, or that someone else's success came at my expense. And this is one of the reasons I've just felt at odds with the world, with the music world, like, since day one, because, you know, it's crabs in a bucket. I feel like if you have any success, the natural response for most people is going to be not to lift you up and cheer you and be inspired by that. It's going to be to, like, pull you back down into the bucket. And, you know, it's something, you know, to be honest with you, I am afraid of being judged for being successful. I'm not, like, rich by any means, but, like, I've made a decent amount of money in my career and from YouTube and stuff. And I'm afraid to ever say so. Like, I would actually like to talk about that more, because I would like to help people, because I am incredibly grateful for what I have been able to achieve. And knowing how much I stressed the fuck out about money, like, my entire fucking life until I was about 35 years old, I never made any money, and I was, like, broke and stressed about it forever. And I finally figured it out. And I would like to help other people get out of, you know, being broke, because I know how much it sucks. And I'm afraid to do that, because I'm afraid that if I talk about any success that I've had, that people will hate me for it, which is fucked up. Like, all I want to do is help people, and I'm afraid to talk about it because I'm scared that people will hate me for it, because they will. And I mean, it's not like I'm you know, multimillionaire or something like that. But that's just the way that the scene works, is if you have any success, people are going to come for you. Losers hate winners. That's what I like to say. That's the essence of crabs in a bucket mentality. Life isn't a zero-sum game. In free markets, people get bigger pieces of the pie, but they usually make the pie bigger by creating jobs and creating products and services that make people's lives better. This is a really good point. I'll move on because I don't want to go on too long about this, but this is a really good point, is for those of you who may think that business is evil, especially people think marketing is evil, just remember this. Every label is a business. Every venue is a business. Every band is a business. Every booking agent, every merch company, these are all businesses. And in order to, if you love music, if you love merch, if you like watching bands, in order for them to bring you more of the thing you love, they have to be a profitable business. That's just the way it goes. It's not a charity. They can't keep putting out records and putting on shows if they keep losing money for it. So having some money actually enables you to make the world a better place. It enables you to hire other people. For example, I have 2 video editors. I have one for my main channel, one for my second channel. And I hope that, what I pay them helps make their life a little bit better, because I think they're both really cool people and I want to help them out a little bit. You can't do that when you're broke. You can only do that when you have a little bit of money. So I think the idea that money is evil and somehow destroys lives is, I think, exactly wrong. Now, the pursuit of money to the extent that you deliberately fuck over other people to make money, well, that's not so cool. But I think actually, for the most part, people make money by helping other people. That's, if you want to get rich, help other people. That's how you get rich. Entertain them, solve a problem for them, whatever, make their problems go away. That's how you make money. So there's a lot of invisible scripts here going on in kind of the scene about money, almost all of them. I think, to some extent it's healthy to push back against consumerism and materialism, but the scene has gone way too far. People have pushed back on this way too hard, to the point where now I believe that it's actually a very negative, self-destructive kind of narrative that, I was watching this video with Dave Grohl and I said, I got to talk about this because this shit drives me nuts. So there you go, my friends. Making a little bit of money does not make you a bad person. And if your friends, if you are worried that if you become successful, that your friends are going to judge you and look down on you and hate you, guess what? Those people are not your fucking friends. That's what I have to say about it.